Hello, and we're here with Gustav Boshoff today. And actually, Goose, maybe you can tell us what do you do? What do you do for a living?
Morning, Chris. Great to be here. Thank you. I am a pharmacist, practicing pharmacist. I've been in the trade for 8 plus years in various facets of pharmacy. I've been obviously I studied and I've been working in community pharmacies, mostly in community pharmacies. I have done community clinics. I have done retail pharmacies where I've been the responsible pharmacist, basically one of the leaders of the business side of pharmacies. And then I've also worked in a hospital. And most recently, I'm actually working at a medical marijuana production farm facility. The farm its name is Simonshoogte. Simonshoogte aims to produce high grade medical marijuana for the Swiss as well as American markets. That's going to be our main focus for the first few years. But we have a lot of plans in that industry going forward. I still maintain that I want to continue being a pharmacist as well, and not just be, because my role at the farm is mostly that of legislative work as well as administrative work. And then eventually, when we get to production, I'll be in charge of quality assurance and basically signing off on all of the medicines, because the medicines that we produce are of a higher schedule, as high, technically, and with the current legislation, it's Schedule 7 substances.
All right.
So there is a lot of legislative problems that need to be, or legislative barriers that need to be overcome for us to export it to another country. But then again, for me myself, I am in that role, missing out a little bit on what I initially wanted to envision myself doing as a pharmacist, and that's actually helping people on a personal and direct level. Therefore, I'm still actually working in community pharmacies as a locum. So I stand in for whenever a locum, or for whenever the pharmacist is sick or on leave, and therefore I still get to work on a personal level with people in communities, wherever those communities are. And yeah, the communities are multiple different layers of society. And yeah, it's just something that keeps me ticking, because I really get to learn a lot from the societies that or the communities that I move into. And it can get very interesting, I would say.
All right. Well, how can it get interesting?
So let's just say things that I as a who grew up in a white Afrikaans family. Recently, I've been working in Zamazambatu, which is in Philippi, north of Mitchell's Plain. And firstly, the first day I drove there, I realized as soon as you go into Philippi, there's no more road rules, because I stopped at a red robot, which is something you do in any other place. But in Philippi, you don't stop at a red robot, because the two taxis behind me started hooting and almost drove into me and kind of almost forced me to go. Which was interesting. But then I started, weirdly enough, it took me about two days or so. And then I started just to read how their traffic works. It just works a bit differently. And basically, taxis have right of way, which is not how I grew up, but this is what it is in that area. And then obviously in the facilities itself, it's actually very nice. I asked the people who work with me teach me a bit of Kosa. I try my best to learn. So basics for pharmacy is 1 3 times a day, 2 3 times a day, 3 times a day. So it's so they teach me a little bit. Any pilisi katato meningi will be 1 tablet 3 times a day. Any pilisi kabini pilisi katato meningi is 2 3 times a day, and then tatu, which is 3, is tatu pilisi katato meningi. It's those little things that you learn, but more than that, you just get a feel for the community that you're working in, and just how much you can actually help these people. Compared to where I was the responsible pharmacist in my previous role, my previous job, was in a very well-off area in Belleville North, in Belgemoot. The area is very affluent, and I must say, those people, they lived in their own bubble. They have their own problems, but compared to the problems of someone in Philippi, it's a completely different thing. People in Philippi, they literally have to work out. They don't have the option as I had to tell a mother that unfortunately we don't have this in the clinic, but you can get it at a pharmacy. It's about 30 rand. And the lady told me, well, she doesn't have 30 rand.
Oh, wow.
It's something that if you grew up in an affluent area, you wouldn't think about not having 30 rand.
Yeah.
And for this lady, that she didn't have it, so I had to make a different plan for her, help out in ways, and then I figured out that I can give a substitute for the thing that I wanted to give her. We made a plan, but the idea of of what is basically what people's struggles are much different from is obviously very very varied in a country like South Africa and where we are, and that's one of the things that I want to address with my life and what I do, and basically if I can get to a point where I can bring more prosperity to everyday people, that would be great.
I can really tell that you care a lot about helping people.
Yes.
And
well, I try.
You try. You do a really good job, I have to say. The shift that you made from working at a pharmacy to going to the medical marijuana farm, what was the incentive behind that? Why did you?
So the biggest thing that I figured there's two sides to it. The job that I was at, I was feeling that I felt that there's no way for me to promote to go further than where I was at that stage in my job, because the only way I would have had a higher position than I was to actually become a owner. That was because I reached the top of where I could be, and to be honest, it became a bit of a stale situation, as well as the corporate side of it just got to me that it's not what I envisioned myself doing. You become more of an administrator than an actual pharmacist, and I didn't particularly like that. And then the other side is the thing that drawed me was the farm itself, the idea. So the people that I work with are very highly motivated farmers and people in the medical marijuana industry. And there is the facility. So firstly, the facilities are already top standard, highest quality. We're not in production yet, but we'll be very soon. And when we get there, the quality and the quantity that we're going to be able to produce is truly worth it. Now, The other side of it that I also do, so firstly, it's a challenge for me because it's something that I don't specifically know, and I don't have a world of experience with the industry that I'm going into, but I do look forward to learning about it. And then again, the other side is I really like the idea of working on a farm. It's just a good idea. And then eventually, what I love about the farm, what eventually will get into the so Africa has, let's say, limited amount of resources.
Yeah.
We have a weak rand, and we have a weak GDP compared to other countries. But there is ways to exploit this actually, and one of them is exports. So if our medical marijuana facility can export to a country, firstly, obviously, we're not in it for, or we are in it to create wealth for ourselves as well. It is a method of creating wealth for ourselves, but the amount of tax that will be put on it, and the amount of fund, or basically the amount we're going to charge for all of the medical marijuana, it's gonna be a good form of income for the country as well.
Yeah.
It's not just we're going to generate wealth for the country, a new stream that wasn't there before, and that is one of the reasons why it's so important for the government, for the medical boards to work together with different production facilities like the medical marijuana facilities, as well as the other marijuana facilities. Marijuana for different reasons can bring has the potential to be a huge asset for this country, because we are so well situated to produce marijuana in large quantities, in high quality. We can be the world leaders if our legislation just allowed it to be that way. And I know the pros and cons of both sides. I know I'm not saying we have to have a blank slate statement that everything needs to be legalized. No, I don't believe that. But a controlled way of introducing it, much like the Swiss have done, I believe there's a big bright future for marijuana in many different forms in South Africa, and it can genuinely. There's other YouTube videos that I've watched that portray that in a year's time we can have 100,000 people employed by the marijuana sector in South Africa alone, and that's something South Africa desperately needs, is job creation.
Yeah.
So this, in a way, if I can just continue with what I did, I would have helped the people in that area, fine. But there's a lot of people that can do exactly what I do. But in the role that I am now, there's not a lot of people that are willing to step up to that point where, okay, let's do something completely new. We don't know exactly how we're going to get there, but we know we're going to get there because our sights are set, our goals are there, and we're motivated. You need to have that motivation to get there, even though you don't exactly know how you're going to get to your point where you're going.
Yeah,
it's important to get into that mindset that you are going to get there, and whatever comes your way, you have to deal with it, and you have to make sure that you just every day you do something to just get yourself a little bit closer, bit closer, and eventually you will get there. It's just, you just need to keep that motivation rolling.
That's very motivational.
Oh, great.
Now, you mentioned one thing that I found interesting is you said this Simonshoogte strand of marijuana that you have is better than a lot of other strands.
Yes.
So the geneticist inside me just wonders why, what makes it better?
So I can't get into the details of genetics as much because honestly I don't know enough about it. It's all that I know. So the reason why Simonshoogte is better than basically any other marijuana that comes from South Africa is the strand is a specific strand that's only available to us in South Africa. It is imported from Switzerland. It is a genetically modified organism. And it was genetically modified in Switzerland, and so in terms of what is available in South Africa, we are the only ones that can produce this specific brand. And so what exactly and so it's a strand that is tailored to be medical use.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be the best hallucinogenic. It's not going to be the best party type of marijuana, but it is going to be highly superior in terms of anti-inflammatory properties, anti-anxiety properties, basically all of the 6 different things that marijuana actually helps with.
Yeah. Wow, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Now, you said another interesting thing is you said it's a GMO. For me, that's interesting because I know when it comes to Food and Drug Administration and regulations, you're not allowed to genetically modify within a bracket food that it's used for human consumption. Now, this is a drug that's also used for quote unquote human consumption. Yes. So how does one get around the fact that it's genetically modified?
So, to be honest, I'm not exactly sure how it is done in that way, but it is, yeah. To be honest, I'm not exactly sure. The legal aspects around the strand itself, I'm not sure.
All right. Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
This farm that's starting up now.
Yes.
In terms of the future of what you think it'll bring, do you think you'll eventually get to a point where this is sort of the headquarters, the main farm, and you'll have a bunch of other farms?
Oh yes.
Oh, you okay?
Yes.
Yes. So maybe can you elaborate on what for future?
Yes.
All right.
Okay, so there's a few things that plans for the future. I will put this under the bracket plans for the future. So, firstly, let's just say, in terms of capital, a year from now, we envision we have stakeholders in America that are interested in funding and basically taking over most or over a part of the business. And that's going to help us a lot with capital. In terms of what we're then going to do, first we're going to expand the marijuana growing facilities to produce more marijuana. Secondly, we're going to expand on terms of our laboratory services. So at the moment, we have very limited laboratory services, basically just basic things. But the idea is the next step is to get or to start a laboratory on the farm with the specific reason for medical marijuana analytics as well as certifications.
All right.
So the idea is that in a year from now, we'll have a laboratory on the farm that basically can guarantee all of the different molecules that are in the marijuana that we are producing, and with that you can exactly see what you're getting. Now, beyond that, so firstly, we are going to expand our own premise. But the market in overseas countries is so big, and that we envisage that we are not going to be able to fill those markets ourselves necessarily with this specific strand that we have. And the idea is that in a year from now, when we have the laboratory, is to basically outsource the growing of the plant to other farms in the area as well. And then basically we provide them with the plants to grow. They just grow it for us. They sell it back, or they sell it to the people of the offtake agreement overseas. But in that way, we also to ensure that we also have our name on it. So they will grow it under the banner of Simonshoogte.
Okay.
So that we have, the idea is brand recognition. We want to establish a brand. So we want to be the number one brand, medical marijuana brand in basically the world. And one thing that what we need for that is reproducible results. We need to ensure the quality is amazing. Every single time our consumers use this product, it has to be exactly on point. It has to be exactly what they expect.
Yeah.
And that means that it has to be the same product every single time. And if we have multiple growers, the only way to ensure that is to have the laboratory to test every single batch that goes out. And that means that will ensure that every single Simonshoogte product is of the highest standards, and there's never going to be a opportunity that someone gets a below average product that has our branding on it.
Wow.
So the idea is that we get a lab and we ensure that everything with the brand Simonshoogte on it is the highest quality.
Accuracy, precision, and repeatability. That's something any scientist wants.
Yes.
That actually brings me to another question is, you're someone with a very, very much scientific background. So how, because I know marijuana is often seen as a more holistic type of medicine versus the, coming from a pharmacy background as well, the very much clinically proven medication. How do you feel about the sort of difference between natural remedies and pharmaceutical?
So I feel there is definitely a big place for medical marijuana in the treatment of various different ailments, and then but there is definitely still a large gap in terms of research for it, in exact and to do exact science with it. To be honest, most of the marijuana knowledge that we have actually comes from non-scientific sides of it, which makes it a bit annoying as a scientist, because you never know exactly how much to give. Let's say any other medication, you're going to give something 3 times a day or 2 times a day, and you have an idea, you know exactly what the results are going to be if this person takes it, and the kidneys and the liver are healthy, then you know they will get this result in 2 days. With the medical marijuana, or marijuana in specific, you firstly, you don't know the exact quantities of the different chemicals inside of the product that you're giving to a patient. That's another thing that Simonshoogte wants to address, is to, with the laboratory, to know exactly how much CBD, how much THC, how much of the other cannabinoids are in the mixture. And the idea is to get it exactly on that level every single time, so that you can start building up a knowledge of how many times a day do I have to do this to get my result, or to maintain that someone is epilepsy free. So in terms of using it as a medicine, it's still in infant days, to be honest. In terms of the comparison between the two, traditional medicines, there's a lot of research or a lot of trials that needs to go into a medicine to make it an official medicine. And But and you do get the idea that you then get the repeatable results
Yeah.
from that medicine. Yeah, so medical marijuana still has to do that.
Yeah.
Where we get to a point where we trial it. The problem with it is why it's not going there, is because it's a biological. It's
Yeah.
a plant.
Yeah.
In the end of the day, if my company, let's say Simonshoogte, wants to do the trial to get a to create a package insert for medical marijuana, the problem with it is we are going to test it on 60,000 people. We are going to have to do it in very controlled environments. Essentially we're going to pay upwards of 6 to 10 million dollars worth of research to get all of this information, and then we're not going to be allowed to patent it because it is a plant. You can't
biological material.
You can't patent
Yeah.
a plant.
Yeah.
Even you can't.
Yeah.
So it's just no company is going to go through all of that effort to eventually be denied making money off making their investment back. So that is the problem with any biological product, is you're never going to get to that point where you know exactly how much to give, because it's not going to be researched on enough people in a controlled enough environment, because no one is going to pay for all of that and not make their money back.
Yeah. Mr. Boshoff, I think we touched on some very, very interesting topics today. Thank you so much for talking to me.
No, thank you very much, Chris.